Have you ever noticed that the harder you try to be happy, the more it seems to slip out of your hands? You buy new things, set new goals, chase experiences, and for a while you feel a spark. But soon, that spark fades. And before you know it, you're back where you started, unfulfilled, restless, and wondering why happiness never lasts. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The very act of chasing happiness often guarantees misery. And in this video, we're going to uncover why. If you clicked on this video, it's because you've felt it too. That deep frustration of thinking, I should be happy by now, so why am I not? Today, we're going to go far beyond surface-level advice and dig deep into the psychology, the science, and the timeless wisdom behind why chasing happiness sets us up for disappointment. Let's start with the paradox itself. At its core, happiness is not something you can chase. It's a byproduct, not a target. The more you treat it as a destination, the more it runs away from you. Psychologists call this the happiness trap. Imagine trying to fall asleep by forcing yourself to sleep. You lie there thinking, I need to fall asleep now. Why am I not asleep yet? I better fall asleep or I'll feel terrible tomorrow. The harder you try, the more awake you become. Happiness works the same way. When you make it the object of your pursuit, you generate anxiety about not having it, and that very anxiety blocks happiness itself. This is the first challenge I want you to reflect on. How many times in your life have you thought, once I get this job, this partner, this house, or this milestone, then I'll finally be happy, only to discover that the feeling didn't last? The comfort here is that you're not broken, you're not uniquely flawed, you're simply caught in a psychological pattern that almost every human falls into. Research in psychology calls it the Hedonic Treadmill. The Hedonic Treadmill describes the phenomenon where no matter what happens to us, good or bad, we eventually return to a baseline level of happiness. You win the lottery, and at first, it feels like pure ecstasy. But give it a year, and studies show you'll likely return to the same level of happiness you had before. The same goes for negative events. Now here's the challenge. If happiness always returns to baseline, then chasing external things for happiness is like running on a treadmill. You exert effort, you feel like you're moving, but in reality, you're not getting anywhere. But here's the comfort. Understanding this frees you. Instead of expecting a permanent high from external achievements, you can start focusing on the deeper sources of well-being that actually last. We'll get into those sources soon, but first, let's dig deeper into why chasing happiness directly makes you miserable. Think about the phrase, I'll be happy when. I'll be happy when I graduate. I'll be happy when I get married. I'll be happy when I make 6 figures. These statements may feel motivating at first, but hidden beneath them is a dangerous message that your current life is not good enough. This mindset trains your brain to constantly postpone happiness. You start living in a perpetual state of waiting. Even when you achieve one goal, your brain quickly shifts to the next. You graduate and think, well, now I'll be happy when I get a good job. You get the job and think, oh, I'll be happy when I get promoted. It never ends. Here's the painful truth. The finish line keeps moving, and the more you tie your happiness to future conditions, the more miserable you feel in the present. Now the comfort is this. You don't have to play that game. There is another way to approach life that doesn't rely on conditional happiness. It involves shifting from chasing to appreciating, from postponing to embracing. And later in this video, we'll explore exactly how. The cultural trap of chasing happiness. But why do we fall into this trap so easily? One big reason is modern culture. We live in a society that constantly sells us the idea that happiness is out there, something to be purchased, achieved, or unlocked. Advertisements tell us that buying this product will make us happier. Social media shows us the highlight reels of others' lives, making us believe they've found happiness, and we haven't. This creates a toxic cycle of comparison. You start measuring your life against others and feel like you're always falling short. And so, you chase harder. The challenge here is realizing that the very platforms we spend so much time on are engineered to keep us chasing likes, validation, attention. And that chase never ends. The comfort is that you can choose to step outside this cycle. You can redefine happiness not as something to be compared, but as something deeply personal and internal. True happiness isn't in competing, it's in aligning with your own values. To understand why chasing happiness doesn't work, we need to look at the difference between wanting and liking. Neuroscience shows that these are two separate systems in the brain. Wanting is driven by dopamine, the neurotransmitter that motivates us to seek rewards. Liking, on the other hand, is about actual pleasure and satisfaction. Here's the problem: wanting is endless. The dopamine system doesn't care about fulfillment, it only cares about pursuit. That's why you can crave something intensely, finally get it, and then immediately feel unsatisfied again. The brain simply moves on to the next target. This is why people who chase happiness often end up miserable. They confuse wanting with happiness. They think, if I want it so badly, surely it will make me happy. But once they get it, the liking fades and the wanting begins again. Here's the comfort. By understanding this difference, you can stop equating your desires with your happiness. You can start focusing less on chasing the next thing and more on savoring the present moment. There's a story told about a traveler who came across a wise monk. The traveler said, "I've been searching for happiness my whole life, but it always escapes me. How do I find it?" The monk smiled and replied, "Happiness is like a shadow. The more you chase it, the more it runs from you. But if you walk steadily on your path with purpose, happiness will quietly follow." This simple story captures the essence of everything we're discussing. The traveler represents us, running, chasing, desperate. The monk reminds us that happiness is not found by pursuit, but by living with presence and purpose. As Viktor Frankl, the famous psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, once said, "Don't aim at success. The more you aim at it and make it a target, the more you are going to miss it." Happiness must ensue, and it only does so as the unintended side effect of one's personal dedication to a cause greater than oneself. If this breakdown is already shifting how you see happiness, imagine what the rest of the video holds. Stay with me, and if you find value here, consider subscribing. Now let's go deeper into the hidden costs, because chasing happiness doesn't just leave you empty-handed, it actually takes something away from you. Think about it like this: if you spend your whole life running after a mirage in the desert, not only will you never reach it, but you'll also exhaust yourself, dehydrate, and collapse from the chase. The pursuit itself becomes destructive. So what exactly are the hidden costs of chasing happiness? There are several, and each of them quietly eats away at your well-being. Let's break them down. Anxiety about not being happy. Ironically, the more you care about being happy, the more anxious you become about the fact that you're not. Researchers have found that people who place the highest value on happiness often report the lowest levels of well-being. Why? Because they constantly evaluate themselves. Am I happy yet? Am I doing enough to be happy? What if I never feel happy? This constant self-monitoring creates pressure, and pressure is the enemy of joy. Instead of enjoying life's moments, you're stuck inside your head, measuring them against an impossible standard. Have you ever gone to a party or a vacation thinking, "This is supposed to make me happy," only to feel disappointed when it didn't? That expectation itself ruins the experience. When you stop demanding happiness from every situation, you free yourself to simply experience. Sometimes the joy sneaks in when you're not looking for it. Another hidden cost is the emptiness that comes from comparing your happiness to others. Social media fuels this constantly. You see friends smiling on vacations, couples posting anniversaries, entrepreneurs celebrating milestones. You tell yourself, "They're happy, I should be too." Why am I not? Comparison is poison because it creates a false measurement. You're not comparing reality, you're comparing your behind the scenes with someone else's highlight reel. And yet, the more you compare, the more you feel like you're losing in the game of happiness. But here's the truth. Many of those people you envy are also caught in the same chase, posting highlights to convince themselves they're happy. The moment you realize this, the illusion breaks. Happiness stops being a competition. Chasing happiness also tricks us into believing we can control it. We think, if I just manage my life perfectly, I can secure happiness. But life is unpredictable. Circumstances change, tragedies strike, and emotions fluctuate. Trying to control happiness is like trying to control the weather. The tighter you grip, the more frustrated you feel when life doesn't go as planned. Acceptance is the alternative. When you stop demanding constant sunshine, you learn to appreciate the rain. Happiness arises naturally when you make peace with what you cannot control. Here's something surprising. Chasing happiness can actually contribute to depression. Studies show that when people obsessively monitor their emotions and feel like they're failing to achieve happiness, they're more likely to develop depressive symptoms. It makes sense. If your brain constantly receives the message, you're not happy enough, it internalizes it as failure. Over time, this creates hopelessness. The chase can push you into a darker place than where you started. But here's the light. When you shift your focus away from happiness itself and onto things like meaning, growth, and connection, your mental health strengthens instead of collapses. So far, we've seen how the pursuit of happiness backfires. But if happiness isn't the goal, then what is? The answer is meaning. Happiness is about how you feel in the moment. Meaning is about how your life fits into a bigger story. Research shows that people who focus on meaning, even when they're stressed or struggling, report deeper and longer-lasting satisfaction. Meaning often requires discomfort. Think of raising children, building a career, or serving others. These things bring stress but also profound fulfillment. And unlike happiness, meaning doesn't vanish when the moment changes. It gives you stability, direction, and purpose, even through hardship. Martin Seligman, often called the father of positive psychology, explained that authentic happiness derives from living a life full of meaning, engagement, and positive relationships, not from chasing pleasure or avoiding pain. Another powerful alternative to chasing happiness is acceptance. Acceptance doesn't mean giving up or being passive. It means allowing life to be as it is without demanding it conform to your happiness script. Think about mindfulness. The practice isn't about forcing yourself to feel happy, but about noticing whatever is present, whether joy, sadness, or boredom, and being okay with it. Paradoxically, this openness often brings more peace than chasing positivity. It's uncomfortable to sit with pain or disappointment instead of trying to fix it with forced happiness. But acceptance teaches resilience. When you stop fighting reality, you discover that you can handle much more than you thought, and genuine contentment grows naturally from there. Let me share a story that illustrates this. A friend of mine trained for months to run a marathon. He thought finishing it would bring him ultimate happiness. On race day, he pushed himself through exhaustion and crossed the finish line. For a few minutes, he felt pure joy. But the next morning, he woke up feeling empty. He thought, that's it? Months of effort for just a moment? Later, he realized that the real value wasn't in the happiness of finishing, but in the meaning of the journey. The discipline, the growth, the resilience. That was the reward. The moment of happiness was fleeting, but the sense of meaning stayed. This is the shift we all need. Away from chasing highs toward living with purpose. At this point, let's talk about something related: toxic positivity. Society often pressures us to just be happy or look on the bright side. While positivity has value, forcing it becomes harmful. It invalidates real emotions and makes us feel guilty for not being cheerful enough. You might tell yourself, I should be grateful, I should be smiling. Why am I not? That should only deepens misery. Real well-being comes not from forcing positivity, but from embracing the full spectrum of emotions: joy, sadness, fear, love. Each emotion has a role. Together they make life rich and authentic. Here's a subtle but powerful distinction. Happiness and contentment are not the same. Happiness is intense, short-lived, and dependent on circumstances. Contentment is quieter, steadier, and rooted in acceptance. Chasing happiness feels like a roller coaster, high highs and low lows. Contentment feels like a calm river, less flashy but far more sustainable. If you stop demanding constant happiness and aim for contentment instead, you'll find a deeper peace. But knowing this isn't enough, how do we actually live differently? How do we stop the chase and start building a life where happiness is a byproduct, not a pursuit? Let's explore these strategies one by one. Most people tie their happiness to outcomes, the job, the relationship, the milestone. But real fulfillment comes from focusing on the process. Think about artists, athletes who describe being in flow. They're not obsessing about the end result. They're fully immersed in the act itself. That immersion is what makes life meaningful. If you're always outcome-focused, you'll never feel satisfied because outcomes are fleeting. When you learn to love the process, whether it's learning, growing, working, or creating, you experience joy that doesn't depend on the result. Gratitude is one of the most powerful tools for contentment, but it has to be real, not forced. Simply repeating, I'm grateful, without feeling it becomes empty. Authentic gratitude means slowing down and noticing small blessings, the warmth of sunlight, the sound of laughter, the comfort of a meal. When practiced genuinely, it shifts your focus from what's missing to what's already here. Gratitude requires slowing down, which is difficult in a culture addicted to speed. But once you practice it daily, even for 5 minutes, it rewires your brain to see abundance instead of lack. Our culture equates success with wealth, status, and recognition, but these are external markers and they fuel the chase. Redefine success in terms of internal values: integrity, growth, contribution, relationships. This shift can feel uncomfortable because it goes against what society celebrates. But when your success aligns with your values, you no longer depend on external validation. You feel whole regardless of applause. Remember, the goal is not to be happy all the time, it's to be fully alive. That means embracing sadness, frustration, and fear as much as joy. Each emotion carries wisdom. Sadness deepens empathy. Anger highlights injustice. Fear sharpens caution. By welcoming all emotions, you live authentically instead of chasing a false, one-note happiness. Facing painful emotions is hard, but when you stop resisting them, they pass more quickly, leaving behind lessons that enrich your life. Decades of research, including the famous Harvard study of adult development, show that the single biggest predictor of long-term well-being is not money, fame, or achievements. It's relationships. In the chase for personal happiness, many neglect relationships, treating them as distractions instead of foundations. But investing in family, friends, and community creates deep connection, which is far more fulfilling than chasing individual highs. One of the most reliable ways to experience lasting fulfillment is to live beyond yourself. When you serve others through kindness, contribution, or making a difference, you tap into meaning that no personal achievement can match. Service often requires sacrifice and effort, but paradoxically, it gives back more than it takes. Helping others often leads to the deepest joy because it connects you to something bigger than yourself. The Dalai Lama once said, "Our prime purpose in this life is to help others. And if you can't help them, at least don't hurt them." Mindfulness, meditation, prayer, whatever form it takes, the practice of presence helps you break free from the chase. Presence roots you in the now. I am here. This moment is enough. Your mind will resist, constantly pulling you back into chasing thoughts. With practice, presence becomes natural. And the more present you are, the more you discover that happiness often hides in ordinary moments. There's a story about a businessman who visited a small fishing village. He saw a fisherman relaxing after his morning catch and asked, "Why don't you fish more hours a day? You could sell more, expand, and become wealthy." The fisherman replied, "And what would I do then?" The businessman said, "Well, eventually you could retire, relax, and enjoy life." The fisherman smiled and said, "But that's exactly what I'm doing now." This story reminds us of a powerful truth. Much of the happiness we're chasing is already available if only we stop long enough to notice. Across cultures and religions, one consistent theme emerges. Happiness is not the goal. Peace, meaning, and connection to something greater are. Spirituality, whether through prayer, meditation, or reflection, shifts the focus from chasing emotions to cultivating presence, humility, and trust. This requires letting go of ego, which always wants more. But in surrender, people often find a deeper joy than the fleeting happiness they were chasing. If there's one takeaway from this entire video, it's this: happiness cannot be pursued. It must be practiced indirectly through gratitude, meaning, relationships, service, and presence. It arrives quietly as a byproduct when you stop chasing it. When you look back at your life years from now, the happiest moments will likely not be the ones you chased desperately. They will be the ones where you were present, connected, and living with purpose. Let's quickly recap what we've covered. We explored the paradox of happiness, the hedonic treadmill, and how chasing directly backfires. We uncovered the hidden costs: anxiety, emptiness, loss of control, and depression, while seeing why meaning and acceptance matter more. We dove into practical strategies, shifting from outcome to process, practicing authentic gratitude, redefining success, embracing emotions, building relationships, serving others, and practicing presence. Together, these insights show that chasing happiness makes you miserable, but living with meaning and presence makes happiness find you. So the next time you hear that inner voice say, "I'll be happy when..." Pause. Remember this truth. Happiness is not a finish line. It's not waiting for you in the future. It's already woven into the present, hidden in small moments, waiting to be noticed. Stop chasing, start living, and happiness will quietly follow. Subscribe.